Hi, this is Melanie for Pardesi Reviews, and I'm here to do a film review of Super 30 starring Hrithik Roshan. If you're new to Pardesi Reviews, I do film reviews and trailer reactions for Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam cinema. Okay, this movie has had some controversy swirling around it. I was not familiar with the person that Hrithik Roshan is playing, Anand Kumar. Super 30 is because he had a school for 30 underprivileged children to try to get them admittance into IIT college. Not only was it that they got to learn, but that he was housing them for an entire year and feeding them so that they could study and make the test. He was written up in Time Magazine and Newsweek and so forth for his amazing school. Now, there's evidently conflicting reports, people saying he didn't necessarily recently get as many of all the 30 that he claimed in recent years, and that he has this for-profit school to fund the free school, which actually I think is the model that you would have to do. I'm actually on the board of a not-for-profit. You got to balance things to make it work, and so I don't think that is a negative if he's running a for-profit school to fund and get the underprivileged kids to have an entire free year of education. Okay, this film is framed in that we're at some sort of award ceremony for what we find out is one of his students, who is telling all the details of Anand Kumar's life, which, on its surface was like, okay, that's the framing device, but how would he know all of Anand Kumar's childhood and every up and down? So maybe it would have been better, since this guy was written up in Time Magazine and so forth, like maybe he's being, the framing device of being interviewed by a reporter, or I don't know. So that didn't completely gel as I was driving home, but in the moment it was fine. And we see everything from him getting an award and then writing a paper and getting offered to have admittance in Cambridge University, but his family cannot scrounge the money to get him to England. And he's turned down by a politician who he assumed was going to help. The politician is played by Pankaj Tripathi, who is one of my favorite character actors now. He is amazing and a standout in a very small role, but he makes a huge impact. The other controversy with this film is it's the very last production by Phantom Films, which is a partnership that Vikas Bahl, the director of this film, was a part of, and they had to disband this production company because of a sexual harassment claim against Vikas Bahl. This film, kind of was released and being made when all of that was swirling around. And there's a kind of an odd scene when the people who are trying to shut down the school, they send someone to do a fake sexual harassment against Anand Kumar. And it's a little bit too on the nose. And why? Why would this director put that in there? Ugh, okay. Sanjeev Dutta wrote the script. And the way I would describe it is everything is up to 11. If you remember the Spinal Tap movie, it goes to 11. That is what this film is. Hrithik Roshan, he puts in 110% into the role. There's a lot of people that are criticizing him that he's miscast, that he doesn't look anything like the original Anand Kumar. And they used brown makeup to make his skin darker, and that is offending a lot of people. But I could sympathize with Hrithik. He's someone that reminds me, when I talked about the trailer, he reminds me of someone like Brad Pitt, who is obviously just as handsome and really wants to play more character role parts. And Brad Pitt has done all sorts of things to de-glamorize himself for things like 12 Monkeys and whatever. And, it's hard if you're that gorgeous. You want to play all of these interesting roles, and yet people are saying, well, you don't look like that. You can't do that. So he gives it his all, and he's playing from someone in his 20s all the way to the end. And I felt like Hrithik could just pull that sort of innocent, naive look on his face, and he really did actually a good job playing a very young man who was naive and thought once he got that acceptance letter to Cambridge, everything was going to happen and go his way. People are probably familiar with Anand Kumar's story. There's another villainous sort of a character who runs a commercial school. Well, first, Anand Kumar is a teacher there. I won't spoil how he becomes a teacher and all of the ups and downs that gets him there. But then suddenly he realizes all the struggles that he had. And Varenne Saxena had played Hrithik's father, and so you get flashbacks to things that he said. Well, it doesn't have to be the king's son who becomes the new king. And he's hearing all of these things in his head and realizing, the commercial school doesn't have a scholarship program, whatever, and he decides just suddenly to make his own school. I don't know if it's completely believable in that moment in the film that he just suddenly awakens to this idea. And then he does put together the school, and it goes into all the struggles. But like I said, the melodrama is ramped up to 11. What I wished is there was more about some of the stories of the students. I was thinking about Hitchki with Rani Mukherjee, where we really kind of got to know a couple of the students and what interventions that she had to do to help certain students succeed. And when she obviously had her own problems that she was overcoming in that film. It's the only one that I can kind of relate, where we're talking about underprivileged kids against the rich kids. And I just felt like all of the 30 kids, we didn't really get to know any of them, and maybe they could have had a few of the stories. I mean, obviously there was not time to do 30, and the film felt long as it was. Overall, I did enjoy it. I don't want to say that I didn't. I just kept thinking to myself as I was driving home how much it could have been better. For instance, if Pankaj Tripathi had been playing Anand Kumar, it would have been amazing. And also, like, the background music was always like, to 11, it's so dramatic, this moment, And I don't know, just something quieter, something a little bit more realistic. The finale confrontation that students have with certain people, and then there's one scene where Anand Kumar makes them do a play in English because trying to get their confidence, that again just didn't. I mean, that was the thing. He wasn't just teaching them mathematics and physics and science. He realized he also had to build up their confidence, because he had to make them believe that they could do it, that they could envision themselves succeeding at taking this test and picture themselves at that university. It was all this coaching that he had to do. It was just a weird scene. Well, it was beautiful. You've seen pictures of it. It was set in Holi. I don't know. It was an odd scene there. One cameo performance that I wasn't expecting was Amit Saad, who plays a reporter. He's a really small cameo, but I'm always happy to see Amit Saad's smiling face. Aditya Srivastava plays the head of the commercial school. There's a couple of villains, and again, they're almost kind of like cartoon, twist their mustaches villains. And maybe something more subtle would have made for a better film. It still was an enjoyable film. It's still a great subject matter. It's still a compelling story. It's just, I don't know that they needed to ramp it up all, a storm is coming, with the music. And I don't know. Sometimes it was a bit much. But I did admire Hrithik's performance in many points, especially the scene at the end when the students find out their scores of the test, and his face just goes through all of these emotions, and it was so good. And it's nice. Hrithik has had a little bit of a bumpy road, and he really had some great moments in this film. I'm more quibbling with the director's choices and the scriptwriter's choices. Not Hrithik did the best job that he could do with what he was given. So I would count it as an average film, but still worth seeing. So let me know if you have had a chance to see the film. I would love to know your thoughts about it. I don't know that much about the real person to know how much was fictionalized. There were lines at the end that some of the things that I thought maybe were over the top maybe were true. I don't know, about, I don't want to spoil it. So, but let me know your thoughts after you've seen the film. I would love to know what people are saying about this film. Follow me on Twitter at PardeziYT. Subscribe here to Pardesi Reviews. And if you hit the bell when you subscribe, then you'll get a notification whenever I have a new film review or a trailer reaction.